Before we start, this episode of Gayish features discussion of the harmful practice known as conversion therapy. This includes references to religious trauma, self-harm, and suicide. If that is something you'd prefer not to hear, or if there's any possibility that will be a trigger for you in any way, we suggest you please skip this episode. There is a list of resources available for support on our website at gayishpodcast.com/help. And now, enjoy Gayish. When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle. Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish,
the podcast that knows if you've been naughty and likes it. That's from Frank.
Oh, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Do you ever get called Frank?
You have now.
Yeah, Frank. Thank you. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today, my over-enthusiastic entry was to make up for the fact that I am fucking knackered, Kyle.
You're knackered?
Yeah.
Boy, you've been in a different country.
Boy, have I. I'm exhausted.
Yeah. What? Why? Where have you been?
A real thing that's true. It takes 28 hours to get from Bangalore, India to Seattle, Washington, at least the way that I did it. And I don't even know who I am or what day it is. Is this a podcast?
You're talking. Don't worry. You're doing great so far. You're doing so good. Just keep talking like you are.
Okay, great.
It'll all work itself out. Are you tired?
Yeah.
Are you? Okay.
Sort of.
Oh.
I feel like I can taste colors.
Oh, you're high on drugs.
but I didn't take any.
But just emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. This will be a fun episode then.
It's going to be great.
We're going to talk about
conversion therapy.
The very serious topic, while Mike is a little loopy.
Yeah.
Bring some levity to the situation.
I hope so.
Okay.
Levity. That sounds like a good drug.
Isn't that a Dua Lipa song?
Levity?
Levitation. Levity.
I say, ask your doctor if levity is right for you. Conversion therapy. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun.
The most not awesome thing ever.
Yeah.
Let's be awesome at it.
Yeah, let's do it.
But first, we have some feedback.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Kyle. We also have 100 words this week.
Uh-huh.
So to avoid you being annoyed about me reading the whole email and not just the 100 words, I'm going to call...
I'm annoyed.
...the first part of the email feedback, because it is.
Nope, it's too bad. It's too late. I'm annoyed. You didn't avoid it.
I shouldn't have explained it. I should have just gone for it.
No, I would have figured it out.
Okay, great. Well, this is from John Wong. He says, "Hi, Mike and Kyle. First of all, and this is not part of my 100 words, I really appreciated your recent podcast on Pennsylvania, which I listened to while driving from D.C. to Canvas in Pennsylvania. And if you want to know, in York, Pennsylvania, just south of Harrisburg, 2 hours west of Philly, the Dems I talked to were super enthusiastic to vote, and the Indies, while many were undecided still, were very receptive to my message for Harris." So, I think that y'all, I did listen to the Patreon segment that you and Derek did, and just talking about, like, are you optimistic? Did Daddy Brian's discussion of his read on the sentiment of Pennsylvania voters, does it give you any sort of optimism? John here is adding to that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are very enthusiastic and optimistic about the Democrat and independents. Which is a great sign. That's great. Especially like people that know, like him, that are like on the ground talking to people. That's great to get their perspective.
Yep. Great. Nailed it. We have 100 words this week.
Yeah.
So at a certain level of Patreon, if you send in 100 words, I will read them.
No matter what they are.
No matter what they are. It's also known as the use Mike's hole benefit. Mm-hmm. Use my hole. Here we go. It's from John Wong.
Oh my God, that's so crazy.
It says, "While it is extremely important to vote this year, be sure to go down the ballot and not just vote for president. There's a ton of important ballot measures this year in many states, so I'll highlight a few. In California, please vote yes on Prop 3, which will repeal Prop 8 and enshrine marriage equality into California law. In Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Maryland, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New York, and South Dakota, please vote to protect abortion access. In Nebraska, vote yes on Initiative 439 and no on Initiative 434 to expand abortion access. Thanks." Thanks again for everything. Be sure to get out the vote. Best, John.
Yeah, LGBT rights and abortion access are two big things that are on the ballot this November. So
yeah,
pay attention.
Vote, fuckers.
Yeah, do a search of how to vote and figure out how to vote,
and then do it,
and then do what it says. Do what the Google AI says.
Vote early and often, everybody.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
And now the news. Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News. Okay, so news the first, Kyle. John just mentioned one of the examples, but there is, believe it or not, in the United States, in next month's election, there are 3 states that are actually voting on marriage equality of all fucking things.
That's wild in this day and age. But I mean, they have to, because they have to try to protect marriage equality in case something happens at the Supreme Court to overturn it, which is horrifying thinking, but you got to plan.
So marriage equality was established nationwide by the United States Supreme Court in its 2015 ruling. Obergefell v. Hodges. And then President Joe Biden in 2022 signed the Respect for Marriage Act, which protects it at the federal level. But it's still on the ballot in 3 states this November. And here's why. The Supreme Court recently overturned Roe v. Wade, which protected abortion access nationwide. So they're like racing backward as fast as they can on things like reproduction. So it's not likely.
Within the realm of possibility.
Within the realm of possibility that they also send gay marriage back to the states or try to. And then, depending on what happens in Congress, it's just Congress can do whatever it wants to. Every 2 years, we could have gay marriage and have gay marriage go away, and have gay marriage and have gay marriage go away. So states.
I didn't think about I thought about the possibility of losing it, but I didn't think about the possibility of it like flip flopping every time we get a new group of people in charge.
Yeah, I mean, the Respect for Marriage Act of 2022 could turn into the No, Fuck Your Gay Marriage Act of 2026.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then back and forth like a game of ping pong. Which, by the way, I was in Bangkok, Thailand. Mm-hmm. Do not go to a ping pong show. That's
ping pong show?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, you know what that is, right?
No.
Yeah.
What is it?
People who can shoot ping pong balls out of orifices of their body.
Oh, yeah. It's not a show of people. Do they have paddles? Do they use paddles as part of this process?
Not that I saw.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing. So people misunderstand this about our system, our legal system in the United States. If the Supreme Court says something is true, it is true. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that it just magically, automatically rewrites the laws of the states that have laws in place that are against whatever it was that the Supreme Court said. They're just unenforceable.
Right.
So there's a lot of states that are trying to fix the fact that they enshrined a ban on same-sex marriage in some way in their constitution or in their statutes. So, for instance, California, this is the one that John Wong mentioned in 100 Words. Prop 3 this year asks voters to repeal Prop 8. So in 2008, there was a ballot initiative in California called Prop 8, which we've talked about several times on the show, that temporarily revoked marriage equality in the Golden State. So Prop 8 was struck down in court in 2013, but remains part of the state's constitution. The California state constitution says that marriage is between one man and one woman because of fucking Prop 8. So Evan Lowe, who is a real hottie, and is running for Congress, if I recall correctly, in the Bay Area. Derek will look that up for me, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it said, quote, voters deserve the opportunity to remove a black mark from the California Constitution. Colorado needs to also remove an anti-marriage equality amendment from its constitution. The amendment was nullified by the Obergefell ruling, but it's still there with the threat of enforcement if the Supreme Court overturns marriage equality, which Justice Clarence Thomas has said that he wants to overturn marriage equality. Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't realize this. Oh, this was important, Kyle.
Oh, what?
The Respect for Marriage Act at the federal level requires all states to recognize same-sex marriages from other states and requires federal recognition of same-sex marriages, but states wouldn't have to offer equal marriage rights if Obergefell was overturned. So let's not so hypothetically say your home state of Texas. If the Supreme Court was to overturn Obergefell,
yeah,
Texas could stop allowing people to get gay married.
Right. They would just have to, if someone in Colorado got married and then traveled down to Texas, they have to say they are still married.
Which, when my ex-husband and I went through the period of time where we were married in Washington and not married in Texas, and it was pretty fucking terrible. Yeah. Anyway, and then last is Hawaii, which was once expected to be the first state with marriage equality, but wasn't. Voters in 98 approved an amendment to the state constitution giving the legislature authority to limit marriage to opposite-sex couples. Quote, it is the only section in our Bill of Rights that was inserted to deny a right. That's Jeff Hong, a marriage equality activist. Hawaiians will vote on a ballot measure that would remove this amendment. I just think it's really interesting that, like, there's similar things like, I'm going to fuck up the details here, but, like, it was like Alabama or Tennessee or one of those fucked up places, like, only, like, ratified the Equal Rights Amendment, like, a couple of years ago.
Oh, interesting.
Despite the fact that it's been, since the 70s, it's been in the Constitution. It just... There's a bunch of stuff, like, states can still not toe the line as much as they want to not toe the line and just continually be in this, like, no fuck you state.
Right.
And it's really interesting.
Hopefully some of that gets fixed this upcoming election.
Hopefully some of that gets fixed.
Yeah.
News the second.
Yeah.
So the Republican nominee for lieutenant governor in Indiana says basically he's afraid of pronouns.
Pronouns are a scary beast. When you learn about them in fucking first grade, they're horrifying.
Says that as lieutenant governor, if any state worker with pronouns in their email signature are discovered, he will fire them.
Wow. He will fire them.
He will fire them.
You used a pronoun. Yeah. You're fired from this podcast, Mike.
Micah Beckwith, he, him. Ooh.
Scary.
Yeah, he was speaking at the Monroe County Republican Party's October 1st dinner meeting and said that putting pronouns in your email signature is a marker of far left ideology.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't be the case. I suppose you're right, but fuck you. But he said, quote, if I get an email from anyone in my office or in agencies that I oversee as lieutenant governor and their signature has their pronouns on it, they're going to be gone. Mm-hmm. He said that that's because employees who acknowledge gender diversity don't have a grasp on reality.
What's up, Mike?
Show me on the doll where the pronouns touched you. Yeah. You dickbag fuckface assholes.
It's the easiest thing. We do it all the time. If someone says my name is Michael, I go by Mike, then you call them Mike. Yeah. You just call them by the name they request. It's that I go by my middle name. Cool. I'll now call you by your middle name. Like, people all the time request that you call them a different name, or of a dog, if you say, like, oh, is it a boy or a girl, so that you can use the right pronouns with a fucking dog. Yeah. It's so easy to use the name and pronouns that are requested of you. It causes you no personal anguish or pain. It's totally easy.
Like, sometimes people have gender nonconforming voices. That's a thing that's true. And if you're like, well, ma'am, blah, 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 and they say, no, I'm a man, then you switch to, like, you say, oh, I'm sorry, sir, and then you go on.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, what the fuck is the fucking problem, you fuckers?
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you.
Shitbags.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's very likely that all of that, if he were to actually try to implement it, is just heinously illegal. People have a First Amendment right to self-expression, and that extends into the public sphere as an employee. And it's not like they're saying anything truly salacious or factually inaccurate. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
But this is where we're at, Kyle. This is how people on the right are winning elections. Focus on something that matters, you shitbirds.
Yeah.
Great. We're adding him to the list. Dickbag, fuckface, asshole, Micah Beckwith nominee. How many nominees do we have anyway? Do we have lots? Happy birthday, Derek.
It's Derek's 40th birthday. Yeah. Oh, wait. Sorry. It's Derek's age redacted birthday.
17.
We have 17 nominees. We need less dickbag fuckface assholes in the world.
Nah. Well, I mean, yes.
Yes.
But they're all nominated, Kyle.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's a big list to decide from.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Let's get through. We have a slightly more important election happening
Than our election of who this biggest dickbag fuckface asshole is.
Yeah. But I'll put up the official ballot in December.
Okay. That's a good time. That's a good voting time for the year.
News the last.
Yeah.
So Tim Walz, who is the Democratic nominee for vice president, running with Kamala Harris, on National Coming Out Day Eve, which we missed National Coming Out Day.
Ooh,
Sorry.
Happy National Coming Out Day, everybody.
Still gay.
Still gay. Yep. Gay and going strong.
The Out for Harris coalition, which is a bunch of faggots that want Democrat Kamala Harris to win the White House, they had a dinner and a virtual rally. And it was... It included Andy Cohen and Jesse Tyler Ferguson and Tim Walz. And he said a bunch of really cool things like, quote, "We're not going back to the times when bullying was accepted. Let's be honest, the bullying came from adults in many ways, and it comes from Donald Trump on a daily basis." Super right about that. I forget if we talked about it on the show or not, but like as a teacher in the 1990s in Minnesota, he became the faculty sponsor for his high school's first Gay Straight Alliance.
Yeah.
And Jacob Wrighton, one of Walz's famous gay former students, said, quote, "It meant a lot to have the football coach serve as an advisor to the school's first LGBT organization."
Yeah, growing up in Texas and being on the football team, I can't imagine any of them having sponsored. I don't know if maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. I don't know where they were at. We never talked about it, but to have a football coach be a sponsor of a GSA that would be huge. That would be such a affirmation.
I think that like there are people that sort of question the bona fides of pro-LGBT folks in the Democratic Party, but hopefully Vice President Walz, I think, has a demonstrated history of walking the walk, and not just talking the talk, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah, for sure.
He said, quote, "We've got 26 days, people, all gas, no brakes." So
he's got farts.
He's got just heinous gas.
That's why it was virtual.
It's all lutefisk. But yeah, anyway, I hope they win.
Speaking of anti-bullying,
that's the news.
Speaking of anti-bullying, this comes out on Spirit Day, which is GLAAD's anti-bullying campaign. Happy Spirit Day. Wear your purple.
We've got Spirit. Yes, we do. We've got Spirit. Are you a Jew? No, I don't know.
You sound so enthusiastic, Mike. I can feel it radiating from here.
I don't know. Spirit Day. Yay, Spirit Day.
Yeah.
Right. That's the news.
And speaking of people that we have spirit for, I want to thank the following new Patreon member, Raymond.
Raymond?
Yeah.
Everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Fuck. Too obvious. He gets that all the time. He hates us now. He just canceled. I just saw on Patreon he canceled.
I wonder how many people have canceled.
Oh, after they heard what they said about them? We lose a quarter of our Patreon members because of just reading their name, the act of reading their names and us saying shit about them. Sorry, Raymond, you're lovely. I'm sure people still like you. That part is true. But
I don't know if any of that is true, but
anyway, if you want ad-free episodes a day early, if you want to use Mike's Hole, if you want a discount on the merch store, there's lots of benefits that you can get. Go to patreon.com/gayish podcast.
Do it.
Do you want to talk about conversion therapy?
No.
Okay.
Of course not.
Yeah.
What? I mean, it's bad, Kyle.
It's real bad. And I don't know. We're going to try to bring our classic irreverence and levity to it, but it's horrifying.
Yeah.
It's a horrifying thing that is, I don't know. This is going to be rough.
Yeah, we're going to try to convert them into believing that that's not possible.
Right. Oh, I thought you were going to say to gayish listeners.
Oh, aren't they? That's a mind fuck.
Yeah.
If they're hearing this, they're already listening, Kyle.
But like a regular, but they're not like they may be listening, but they may not be listeners.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You can fuck dudes. That doesn't mean you're gay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. Okay.
Okay, great.
What are we going to talk about?
Let's talk about conversion therapy. I am going to talk to you about the history of conversion therapy, just because there is a lot there. But it does mean, in typical Mike fashion, we need to sort of calibrate on what conversion therapy is.
And for once, you're asking a question I think that is very good.
Okay.
Other times you're like, what is a TV? Like, what is a dog? And we have to be like, do the basic act of defining what the thing everyone knows is. Conversion therapy, it makes sense to be like, what is conversion therapy? Because I think there are lots of things that it could potentially be, but yeah. I think the classic thing you think of is like someone trying to shock someone, like showing pictures of penises and shocking someone, like doing like these kind of horrendous. That's my ass. It's horrendous. Horrendous kind of torture techniques to try to get people to have an aversion to the same gender.
Yep. Well, and aversion therapy is one of the sort of camps of conversion therapy. But let's break down the words. So conversion and therapy. Conversion, we mean typically we mean any attempt to change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity. Mm-hmm. That's they're trying to convert from one place to another place, usually towards cis heteronormative orientation.
My God, can you imagine if there was gay conversion therapy? Like, make me gay. I want to be gay.
There is, and I have an example that I'm going to talk about a little bit later.
Shut the fuck up. I only care about that.
Okay, great. So that's the conversion part. Now, usually, to me, I didn't really think about like conversion therapy for trans people until I started doing the research for the episode. I think of conversion therapy as being strictly about sexual orientation, but
I do too.
But that's not the case.
Right.
I do think that that's going to be the focus today, partially because we're both gay men, mm-hmm. and so I just want to acknowledge that like there is also conversion therapy to try to convince trans people that they're not trans.
Right.
And we'll touch on it, but it's probably not going to be the focus.
Yeah. I read something that was like, how do you know whether you're in a conversion therapy? Because it may not always be obvious if the thing you're in is, and one way is to request that they use a specific name and pronouns. And if they don't respect that, that's an easy early tell that you're in a conversion therapy.
Yep. Agreed.
But okay, so we defined the conversion part.
The therapy part. So I also think that modern conversion therapy has focused on talk therapy as being what is the modality, right? Yeah. That like you're going to sit down across from a therapist, a mental health professional of some kind, who's going to then talk you through your orientation and quote unquote fixing it. But talk is very much the approach.
Yeah.
Largely because other kinds of conversion therapy are torturous or horrific in ways that we just don't tolerate as a modern society anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it isn't still attempted, especially in places that aren't the United States. But there's therapy like something that is therapeutic, and then there's therapy like BetterHelp.
Right.
Right. And it means both, but I think that in the world of conversion therapy, although we mean talk therapy usually, it can be any number of ways of accomplishing it, like aversion therapy that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
So, okay. Do you feel calibrated?
I feel very calibrated. What else did I write down? There are other methods that have been used include brain surgery, surgical or hormonal castration. We talked about aversion treatment, nausea-inducing drugs, hypnosis counseling, spiritual interventions, visualization, psychoanalysis, and arousal reconditioning. These are things that I wrote down as all different kinds of methods that have been used, types of conversion therapy.
Yeah.
It's also known as sexual orientation or gender identity change efforts. Often when you see people talk about conversion therapy, they might put, especially gay organizations, they'll put therapy in quotes because it is a little bit misleading to believe that conversion therapy is in any way actual therapy because it's been so discredited. So, I saw a bunch of things refer to it as sexual orientation or gender identity change efforts.
I do think that now is maybe a good time to say that there is scientific consensus that none of this works.
Right.
It is all bullshit. And in fact, frequently causes significant long-term psychological harm to people that go through it.
Which I'll talk more about in Gayda.
Yeah. So just, I don't know. There was a time when I thought, because of my own journey, that I really wanted it to be a thing that would work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sort of made sense to me that it would work. And I didn't go, but I did like research it and just, yeah.
You researched conversion therapy?
Yeah.
Huh.
I didn't want to be gay.
Yeah.
Why would I want to be gay?
Yeah.
It's hard, Kyle.
Yeah.
Now it's hard. Also, so a bunch of jurisdictions have passed laws against conversion therapy, and that number goes up all the time. It's like sort of a trend. So,
yep, there are, as of June 19th, there were 18 states and the District of Columbia that have banned it, and there are criminal bans on conversion therapy in 7 countries.
Wow. We are not one of them.
We are not one of them. Yep.
We're state by state, unfortunately.
Yeah. The countries are Canada, Ecuador, France, Germany, Malta, Mexico, and Spain.
Okay. I see you, Malta.
Yeah. Hey, Malta. What's up?
Welcome to the party.
Yeah.
No, wait. We should
I mean,
welcome ourselves to the party.
we need to get welcomed to the party at some point. Anyway, yeah.
So I want to start, though, with a couple of interesting things. I think it's interesting. So, like the modern concept of therapy, like talk therapy, and other interventions like electroshock therapy, to a certain extent, even like lobotomy was, all of that is modern. Like since the late 19th century, we've been doing those things. And that's a lot of that is because the idea of psychoanalytics and mental health as a profession really got started then. And basically we've been trying to cure homosexuality as long as there's been a word for it.
Yeah.
Right. Like the word was coined in the late 1800s, and we've been trying to fix it as a pathology ever since. And that at least was like an attempt to bring scientific rigor to the whole concept. Before that, there's a bunch of really interesting things, and I'm not going to share all of them. But 3 things popped out to me in my search for quote unquote conversion therapy, folk medicine, religious ceremonies, and other kinds of attempts to affect gender or sexuality. So first, the Greeks, Kyle. We got to talk about the Greeks.
What did the Greeks do? No.
The Greeks were famously down with the butt sex in some certain respects, right? Pederasty is this idea that a older man and a younger boy have a mentor-mentee relationship that includes sex as part of the gig. And that sounds horrific to us, to our modern sensibilities, but it was very much just an accepted practice in large swaths of ancient Greek society. What I thought was really interesting is that apparently in ancient Spartan weddings, the bride would cut her hair short for the wedding and dress like a man to help the husband's transition from homosexual to heterosexual relationship easier.
I think you've told me that before. I think you've shared that fact before, which is hilarious.
It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. But this idea that like the conversion therapy for the Spartan groom was that his bride would be as dudeish as possible.
Look like a boy so that I can ease myself into having sex with you, a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's wild.
That is wild.
And another is that for lesbians in medieval Europe, it was wild because they obviously thought of identity and sexuality differently than we do. That's just true. I mean, the word gay didn't even exist. But lesbians got to fly under the radar way more than gay men did because it was all about penetration.
Right. We care so much about the penis. Oftentimes lesbians aren't mentioned in laws or aren't considered. Like straight dudes think they're hot, so they kind of get a pass for a lot of things. That's right.
But it's also it's about penetration, but it's also about procreation, and those things are often interrelated. And
right.
So one of the ideas about what made a woman a lesbian was that she didn't want to have children. And for some maybe traumatic reason, or there's something physiologically wrong with her body that made it so that she didn't want to procreate, and that's really why she was a lesbian. It gets dangerous, right? Because it turns into this like, well, she just hadn't met the right dick yet, kind of thinking. But what's wild to me is that then one of the cures for lesbianism was, I want to find the quote because Jesus Christ. Yeah, there were two medical situations that were linked to lesbianism in medieval Europe. One was that the womb of a woman had a buildup of her seed, and due to a lack of sexual intercourse, this would cause the suffocation of her womb. So this whole thing about you just haven't had enough dicks up there.
Yeah.
That's why you're a lesbian. So the cure was for a midwife who was a woman to put hot items inside of her vagina to bring her to orgasm.
Oh.
Yeah. And that would help her somehow retain the seed of a man. And sometimes that was also just interpreted as straight up oiling up your fingers and finger blasting her. So it was like, get finger blasted by a lady.
Yeah.
That will cure your lesbianism.
You know what? I'm sure the lesbians were super down with that. That's fine. You know what? Ladies finger blast me. Someday.
It's just wild. It's so wild. But apparently none of that was considered sex. But some people weren't down. By the 13th century, because this is a very old series of therapies, big old quotes around therapy. But by the 13th century, there were religious leaders in the Catholic Church that were saying that forced marriage was a solution rather than finger blasting, which I don't know. That's not great.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff about dildos and using dildos and like that is viewed as being like the worst thing that like women could do to each other because that made it sex and therefore made it sodomy.
Oh, so like women doing that together without a man there, right? Was okay. Got it. It's all about penetration.
It's all about the penetration. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I wanted to touch on in this little section here is celery.
Okay. If you would have given me 100 guesses.
I mean, sure. One of the theories about being a homosexual man was that it somehow was related to not being horny enough.
Okay.
The idea was if you were horny enough, if you were driven to procreate enough, you would want to put it in a girl.
Oh, right.
And get her pregnant. So the fact that you only want to hook up with dudes means that your libido is too low.
Okay.
Which, I don't know, there's some kind of weird consistency there.
I can kind of follow. Like,
even though that at some point turned into like gay men are horny and like fuck way more than anybody else. That was not the case at this time in this sort of thinking. But celery apparently was supposed to be a way to increase your libido and therefore was a way to cure homosexuality by giving you boners.
Celery is the least exciting of all the vegetables. I don't know why you would that it's just so bland and uninteresting.
Well, there was a French philosopher and physician who said, quote, "It is enough to stress that celery is not in any way a salad for bachelors." Because if you eat salad or if you eat celery and you're single, you're going to have to jerk off and that's bad. Like stay away from celery unless you're married and can immediately put a baby in her.
Yeah. God, celery has never gotten me horny once in my life.
I don't even I like it in a Bloody Mary, I guess.
Oh.
That's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so celery was considered a cure for homosexuality because it would make you want to knock a girl up.
Sure.
So there are also, and I won't go super into it, but there were also in different kinds of witchcraft. There were spells that would help to change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity or both. There were religious ceremonies, usually akin to something like exorcism, that, of course, if you were attracted to the same sex, it's because you were possessed by some spirit of the opposite sex that was making you act like, in the case of a gay man, like a chick, and therefore craving dick. Like, then we need to expunge your body of this other competing spirit that was inhabiting yourself. So there's like all kinds of like exorcism type rituals related to conversion therapy efforts. But so let's go to actual like medical conversion therapy. It was more or less, it started as soon as we had a word for it. So you've talked before about Krafft-Ebing. Richard von Krafft-Ebing. He was a German-Austrian psychiatrist and one of the founders of sexology. And he wrote this book called Psychopathia Sexualis. And in that book says that you can cure homosexuality through hypnosis. And but that book, Psychopathia Sexualis, was widely translated and was very influential in early models of homosexuality as a mental health pathology that needed to be addressed as such. He also thought that the best cure for homosexuality and other kinds of sex perversions was castration. And he said that castration was a bad idea.
Oh, okay. So we kind of like at least some of what he said. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He also thought that like there was this thought that like jerking off could make you gay, and
that's why I'm gay.
He thought that stopping boys from masturbating was not going to help either. But Eugen Steinach, I don't know. He's Viennese. It's German. Say it that way, probably. But he was on to this whole thing about like it being somehow related to the testicles, and his plan. This is gross as fuck.
Oh God. Okay.
Not only would he remove your testicles, but he would replace them with a straight dude's testicles. The idea was you just need some straight balls.
Where would they get the straight testicles?
From dead dudes.
You'd get a cadaver's testicles?
A straight cadaver's testicles, Kyle.
Shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Ew.
Yeah.
That couldn't have been sanitary back then.
Well, also, not only did a lot of them die because of rejection, they would reject the straight testicles, which that's funny. But also it never worked.
Yeah.
So no.
Nope.
We got to talk about Freud. Freud did believe that conversion therapy was possible in a clinical setting, but only in some cases. He thought for the most part that there was nothing that could be done to change the fact that a person was homosexual. And that was somewhat controversial for the time, and I suppose could be considered controversial today.
Right.
But he didn't believe that forcing them to have straight sex would help, that there was no way to change the level of pleasure that they would get from gay sex. He thought that the focus should be on alleviating the pain caused by social disapproval.
Yeah.
And
preach.
In 1935, a mother asked Freud to treat her son, and he wrote back to her this letter. Quote, "I gather from your letter that your son is a homosexual. It is nothing to be ashamed of. No vice, no degradation. It cannot be classified as an illness. We consider it to be a variation of the sexual function produced by a certain arrest of sexual development. By asking me if I can help your son, you mean, I suppose, if I can abolish homosexuality and make normal heterosexuality take its place. The answer is, in a general way, we cannot promise to achieve it. In a certain number of cases, we succeed in developing the blighted germs of heterosexual tendencies, which are present in every homosexual. In the majority of cases, it is no more possible. It is a question of the quality and the age of the individual. The result of treatment cannot be predicted." Freud thought everybody was born bi and that they sort of learned to be straight through social sculpting. But basically, gay or straight or bi, wherever you landed, was pretty much stuck.
Right.
which is super, super interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
But for him to say, like, he also was famously atheistic and didn't, like, have any of the sort of religious bullshit associated with it. So he's like, it's not immoral. It's maybe a pathology, but it's certainly not an illness. Right. And there's nothing that you can do about it once it is set in.
Yeah, we haven't talked too much about religion quite yet, but religion plays a huge role in why people think conversion therapy might work. And people that do conversion therapy are often religious leaders.
Fucking religion, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots of different kinds of conversion therapy popped up over time. There's aversion therapy, which you touched on at the beginning, but that's using electric shock or nausea-inducing drugs during presentation of same-sex erotic images. So, like, here, look at this gay porn.
Yes, let's show you gay porn to help get rid of your desire for gay porn.
And then shock you or make you throw up or hurt you or burn you. That's another or ice baths. Freezing, burning via metal coils, or hard labor, which I don't know how that's supposed to help. I mean, I am very lazy, but I doubt that would make me less gay. Yeah. Brain surgery, especially lobotomy, was used. Castration and transplantation, we talked about that, and that wacky dude. Ex-gay or ex-trans ministry, which I'm going to talk about the colossal failures in that whole industry a little bit later in the show. Hypnosis, straight talk therapy, psychoanalysis. Then there's also marriage therapy.
They just marry you off to someone of the opposite gender and hope that fixes you?
Exactly right.
Huh. Well, a lot of people practice that.
Yep. I tried it on myself. It did not work.
Yeah.
Anyway, by the late 1970s, most mental health professionals and science pointed to the idea that conversion therapy is ineffective in all of its forms. And the movement to then ban it started and really reached a point. There was a big step back that was taken again because of AIDS. HIV AIDS sort of created a new level of stigma and fear of homosexuals and homosexual behavior that sort of reintroduced this desire to stamp it out using things like conversion therapy. Yeah. Even though the science was clear, there was still a cultural thing that was happening. Yeah. It was really in the 2000s that we started getting serious about getting the word out that, like, all of this is bullshit. Don't attempt it. You're just hurting people. And we started seriously putting the kibosh on it. You were going to talk about Gayda?
I have some Gayda. Yeah. So I have a little bit about the impact of conversion therapy and who's affected by it. So let's start with the humanistic and economic burden of conversion therapy among LGBTQ youths in the United States. Youths. That is a report by Anna Force, Casey Pick, Gabriel Tremblay, Shrina Malavi, Amy Green, Karen Sandman. This is in what?
I love the Sandman. It's a really good show.
This is from JAMA Pediatrics, a monthly peer-reviewed medical journal published by the American Medical Association.
Yeah, JAMA or JAMA?
I don't know.
It's good.
Yeah?
I hear about it all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Journal of the American Medical Association? JAMA. JAMA. Yeah.
JAMA.
It's real. It's important. That's one of the ones that, like, when they talk, you listen.
Oh, okay. The American Medical Association is one of the groups that opposes conversion therapy, as do all major medical associations, but usually that's one listed because it's such a big organization and well-respected. That's interesting, of their journal. This came out in 2022.
Okay.
They reviewed, I love a review of it, all the existing literature, because it's like one place to go to analyze all the studies that have been done. So you kind of get this meta study of what's going on, what's the state of knowledge as we know it.
Yep.
And this is a review of 28 publications. Conversion therapy.
I just don't know. How do you know when you're done? Do you review everything, or do you just, like, make a best effort?
I think you got to review everything. Well, I mean, you got to make your best effort to review everything. You got to do both.
I feel like Gen AI is going to do this for us in the future.
Oh, going to find. I think it'll at least help you identify all the available information that you would then review manually.
Yeah. I'm going to try to make my Chat GPT gay. I'm going to try to convert it.
Chat GPT?
Yeah, exactly.
What is it going to be called? Do you know all the virtual assistants have names? Or are you going to call it like
Stewart?
That's perfect. The average age that conversion therapy was started was how old?
14.
25.
Fuck my ass. What?
25 is the mean age that conversion therapy was initiated.
I mean, I guess that's about the time that I was like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
No.
Huh.
I've tried. I have failed.
And
time to embrace the dick.
Embrace the dick, everybody. We need a shirt that says embrace the dick. And it's just a man hugging a dick.
Yeah.
The mean number of sessions is 118. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. That's a whole lot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You said mean?
Mean, yeah.
Great. Okay.
And the mean duration of treatment is 26 months.
Fuck.
So it's a long time of conversion therapy.
So long to be potentially fucking your brain up.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So here are the actual impacts, the negative impacts of conversion therapy that, when we talk about it's bad, it's not reputable, it's debunked. These are the things that fuck you up about it.
I think it was my third or fourth visit to physical therapy that my back still hurt. And I was like, this isn't working. Fuck this. I can't imagine for 26 months in a row thinking like, okay, it's going to start working any day now. This is wild. Okay,
yeah. Yeah. That sucks, right? Relative to those that didn't undergo conversion therapy, those that did experience the following: serious psychological distress. Mm-hmm. That is 47% for those who underwent conversion therapy versus 34% for those who didn't. Because we experience all these things. None of these things are unique to people with conversion therapy. It's they just experience it at higher rates. Mm-hmm. So depression is 65 versus 27%. So that's a huge jump in the amount of people that experience depression. Mm-hmm. Problematic substance use, that's 67% versus 50%. And of course, attempted suicide, that's 58% versus 39%.
Wow. Okay.
So those are some of the side effects of conversion therapy. None of the side effects, of course, are actual conversion from gay to straight or from trans to cis. And now over to a Williams Institute report that talks a little bit more about how many people are impacted by this.
Serena or Vanessa?
Yes, every time, Mike. It's funny every time. The number of people affected, almost 700,000 LGBT adults aged 18 to 59 in the U.S. have received conversion therapy.
You poor fuckers.
Including 350,000 LGBT adults who were subject to the practice as adolescents.
Okay.
There are 16,000 LGBT youth aged 13 to 17 who will receive conversion therapy from a licensed healthcare professional before they reach the age of 18.
Jesus. And
that is, of course, because there are, at least at the time of this report, there were 32 states that don't ban the practice. So you can go to a licensed therapist who practices conversion therapy.
Fuck.
10,000 LGBT youth live in states that ban conversion therapy and have been protected from receiving conversion therapy from a licensed healthcare professional.
That's good. So although I bet they try to figure out a way around it.
Yeah, I mean,
fuckers.
Like, instead go to your religious leader isn't technically a licensed therapist, and you're allowed to meet with them.
And they can say whatever crazy thing they want to because religion.
Yeah, because religion trumps everything. And an estimated 57,000 youth across all states will receive conversion therapy from a religious or spiritual advisor before they reach the age of 18.
Wow.
The public opinion of conversion therapy, there was a 2019 national poll conducted by Ipsos and Reuters that found that 56% of U.S. adults support making conversion therapy on youth by mental health practitioners illegal.
It's Reuters.
Reuters. Because they're rooting around for the data.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Also, root is Australian slang for fucking.
Yeah, let's root Australia. I'm a rooter.
Great.
So 56% supported making it illegal. Only 18% think that it should be legal. So I guess a lot of people didn't know.
Yeah.
So more people need to know.
Yeah.
Because that's not that is a majority, but not enough of a majority for my liking.
Yeah.
That's like right on the borderline. And, Republican attacks on LGBT people can sway things several percentage points in the wrong direction. So like,
is that what that Madonna song is about?
What song?
Borderline?
Yes. Over the borderline. So that's the Gayda on conversion therapy.
Okay.
You wanted to talk about ex-gay ministries?
Oh, well, I mean, want to is a strong word. I mostly just wanted to talk about how fucking stupid these people are and how hilarious it is that it totally failed.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first contemporary ex-gay ministry was called Love in Action, which that's gay. And they renamed themselves Restoration Path in March of 2012. But it was an ex-gay Christian ministry that was founded in 1973. Love in Action. It was founded by Frank Worthen, John Evans, and Kent Philpott in Marin County, California, just north of San Francisco.
A bunch of homos,
yeah. And so they have done a lot of harm over the years, and they probably have disappeared. As of October 2019, the website and their Facebook page were taken down, and the California Secretary of State says that the organization has been administratively dissolved. Mm-hmm. So they weren't filling out their paperwork. So that doesn't mean that they're not still operating in some capacity, but they're definitely not what they used to be. Mm-hmm. But they were trying to provide a biblical response to conversion therapy and provided resources to clergy or other people involved in the church to pray away the gay. The phrase "pray away the gay" came from this whole thing. And there are lots of other organizations that have similar charters. But what's interesting about this one is it was the first one. And there's a couple of controversies that are worth noting. So John Smid said he became a Christian in 1982. He found that his religious conviction was incompatible with his homosexuality, and so he entered into a relationship with a woman, and they got married. In 1986, he joined the leadership of Love in Action, eventually becoming executive director. He left Love in Action in 2008, and then by 2011 on his website said that, quote, homosexuality is an intrinsic part of one's being and that change, repentance, reorientation, and such cannot occur. Said, I have never met a man who experienced a change from homosexual to heterosexual, despite being executive director of this organization for fucking, 22 years.
Wow. I would think they'd have some, like, one example of someone who just claimed to have been changed but maybe he just knows that none of that was real. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are lots of ex-gay ministries still in operation that still have leadership that is claiming that what they do works. Mm. And there's an archetype, though, of the dude who's like a believer in Christ who admits same-sex attraction. I struggle with same-sex attraction. And but God is helping me to, not act on those urges. Meet my wife, Karen, who like is for sure totes a lesbo also. And look at our lovely family who's super well adjusted because they have a faggot for a dad.
Yeah.
And then ultimately they then later come out and they say, no, it doesn't work. It never worked. And by the way, here's my husband.
Right.
This dude, this John Smid guy, that's exactly the story. So in November of 2014, he married his same-sex partner, Larry McQueen.
You kind of like, okay, I don't know how bad to feel for him. Like at one point he was a victim, but then he turned around and inflicted harm on other people. So he's the perpetrator of it. But he's also still kind of a victim. I don't know. It's hard to wrestle with like how to feel about him as that person.
Like society drove him to it, but then he
picked up the gun and started shooting people. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He then started perpetrating harm against others. but still from the root of society making him think that would work.
Yep.
Like, I don't know.
Yep.
It's rough.
Well, John Polk is another guy. He was an ex-gay ministry guy. He founded and led Love One Out, which I don't know why they have to put the word love in.
That sounds like rub one out.
Well, it does. Yeah. Yes. Spell one.
Spell out?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But Focus on the Family spun off that ministry. And that's like
yikes.
dickbag, fuckface, asshole headquarters.
Yeah.
But he was chairman of the board of Exodus International North America. He wrote an autobiography, Not Afraid to Change, in 1998 that talked about his sexuality, attempts to change his same-sex desires. And then in 2000, so September 19th in 2000, while on a speaking tour, he was seen sitting inside at the Washington, D.C. gay bar, Mr. P's.
Okay. You're just begging to be caught at that point. Like, go to a public place like that. I thought you were going to say like a bathhouse or something that's like a little bit more private or is... wow.
No. A patron recognized him and then contacted his boss. Contacted Wayne Benson of the Human Rights Campaign, Truth Wins Out, and other gay political action organizations. And then Wayne Benson from the HRC showed up at the bar 40 minutes later to confront him.
Wow.
That's like there's some kind of like gay hotline apparently that you can call to like call out the cavalry. So at first he said, "I'm not John Polk." He said, "My name is John Clint."
Good lie.
On the way, he exited the bar and some people took his picture.
Yeah.
And then was later confronted about the incident and the photographs. And he said, "Well, okay, I was at the bar, but I didn't know it was a gay bar."
Sure. Gay bars notoriously subtle and demure.
Mindful. I just went in there for a little bit to use the restroom.
Mm-hmm.
But eyewitnesses reported that he stayed there for more than an hour, flirted with other men, and when questioned about his sexuality, said, "Yep, I'm gay."
Oh, wow.
He was called to Focus on the Family headquarters, was questioned by James Dobson, and gave like indirect, evasive answers about the incident, but then later confessed that he had been in the bar for the purpose of finding connections with other men. He then later left. But despite the incident, he remained in his position as manager of the homosexuality and gender department until he left that position in 2003.
Wow.
After 2003, he and his wife and family moved to Portland, Oregon. They started a catering business. Well, that's
where you hire a bunch of twinks to like work out of college. Like that's, oh my God, you're going to surround yourself with gays.
Yep. And in April of 2013, he publicly disavowed his belief in gay reparative therapy, announced that while he remains a devout Christian, he also identifies as a gay man, no longer formerly gay, which is how he called himself. He believes that reparative therapy is both futile and harmful, announced that his marriage was ending, and he issued a formal apology for his role as an advocate of the movement. I expect that he has also entered into a long-term partnership with another man since then, but that's where the story ends. I didn't look into it any further. But ex-gay ministry, first of all, we know that the most virulent homophobes are more likely to be gay. Mm-hmm. That's just true. It's like a reaction inside themselves. They hate the fact that they are gay so much that they have to become super anti-gay in everything that they say and do. And some take it to the next level of starting these kinds of organizations.
Yeah. Sounds like a coping mechanism to me.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, despite not only being I'm not only the president, but I'm a client for that's the men's hair thing, right? Hair Club for Men. I'm not only the president, I'm also a client, a member. Yeah. Anyway, despite like becoming like the best at anti-gay conversion therapy horseshit over and over and over again, it fails. It fails in a colossal way. They get caught at a bathroom or a gay club or a bathhouse or something. Ultimately end up leaving their marriage and hooking up with a dude. It just happens over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. And the fact that people still, in spite of all this evidence, believe that it can do what it does is crazy.
And it's overwhelmingly harmful.
Mm-hmm.
And the fucked up thing is that because Jesus, you get to do it.
Right.
I think freedom of religion is fucked.
Yeah.
I am so super anti that these days. I don't know. Cancel me. I don't care. It just is. It is, I think, the most harmful thing that's happening to this country right now.
Yeah.
It is this idea that you can do any fucked up, crazy bullshit that you want to, as long as you say because Jesus.
Right.
It is horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. And I'm sad now.
Yeah. Well, we weren't going to make it out of our conversion therapy episode happy, so
Right.
it makes sense.
Speaking of which, for the Patreon segment, we're going to talk about ways in which we're unhappy, and you're going to ask some questions that are, I'm sure, going to make things worse.
I can't wait to ask you some of these questions. They're fun. They're lighthearted and playful, like all of conversion therapy. I'm going to tell you quotes from some survivors.
Okay.
This is an article from stonewall.org.uk.
Great.
What up, UK?
Yeah.
They also are wrestling with conversion therapy.
Big Fatty just calls it the yuck.
I love that. Let's see. First, Liam, a trans man in his 30s, said, quote, "One of the most destructive impacts was that I began to believe I was unlovable. After all, if I was being told that even God couldn't bear who I am, then it was, and sometimes still is, difficult to see how I am worthy of love."
Oh, God. So horrible.
To the religious aspect of this is saying that God doesn't love you because of who you are. Of course, how can you believe that anyone else would love you if you're all-knowing, all-genius, all-doing God can't even love you?
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Eli, a gay man in his 20s, said, quote, "Today I struggle with trauma, PTSD, and an eating disorder, which are all linked to my conversion therapy experiences. I have a difficult time with relationships, and intimacy scares me. A lot of people can't comprehend what it's like to have experiences like mine, even LGBT people. My parents still don't understand why I didn't want to have conversion therapy or why it was so damaging. They think all therapy is a good thing."
Yeah. I had this thought earlier. I say on the show, everyone should be in therapy all the time for every reason. And especially queer people.
Yeah.
But then I got to thinking, I wonder if that's maybe the wrong message, or if we should be more careful about like what we mean, or if I should be more careful about what I mean. I don't mean go to therapy so that someone will fix you.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
So if the goal for therapy is to be less gay, that's not what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe that's when I say for every reason, there's an asterisk there.
Yeah.
Except to change your sexuality or your gender identity.
Well, I think that's the harm in calling it conversion therapy. That's why a lot of places put little quotes around therapy or, called it like change efforts, in studies, because it's not therapy. Like you can call anything therapy, but that doesn't make it actual therapy.
Right. Yeah.
So, I think that's one of the damaging parts about it is I could see parents thinking, oh, therapy, that's good. Let's send you there. Carolyn, a trans woman in her 70s, said, quote, "When I remembered the treatment I'd had, I would start physically shaking. In that sense that you could say that the therapy, quote unquote, worked in that it affected my body. But in terms of my mind and my thoughts, it only made me hate myself more. The treatment didn't stop or even decrease my feelings of dysphoria. I struggled with it for decades. It was only when I retired early, age 55, that I felt I could live openly as myself. And while things got so much better, I'd still have flashbacks from my aversion therapy sessions 40 years later."
Wow.
I can't imagine after 40 years still getting flashbacks to what you went through in conversion therapy.
I mean, gay sex is hard enough without like having then like images of getting burned with a brand or shocked while looking at gay porn. Like I can't imagine. Like it doesn't make you not gay, but it sure will fuck up your gay experience. Or has the potential to, and like that's really tragic.
Yeah, for sure. Because gay sex should be wonderful and fun and hot and sexy and feel good.
It sure can be all those
sure
things.
It sure can if you want it to. And then lastly, George, a gay woman in her 30s, said, I went into total denial about my sexuality and embraced the idea that I had been, quote unquote, cured. At the same time, my mental health bombed and my self-harm increased dramatically. In 2009, I tried to kill myself. It was only last year, at age 38, I finally accepted that I am gay. Even today, when I know that God loves me for who I am, the guilt around my sexuality is so hard to shake.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
Kyle.
And it's interesting to me, people that still stick around with religion. Like I don't want, there are LGBT people who are religious, even our listeners who are religious. Somehow you've made it through all of our ranting about religion and still are a listener. So thanks for doing that. But it's so surprising to me that people can go through conversion therapy, especially at the hands of their religion, and still maintain, even after coming through the other end, maintain their belief in religion.
Yeah.
That seems,
I mean, okay. Playing devil's advocate here.
Sure.
Not my joke, but I love it. That's Cecily Strong's joke. There are genuinely queer affirming religions out there.
Right.
They are fewer and further between than they should be. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to agree with you, but also, like, it's not all religion.
Right.
And it's not like the Catholic Church is shitty to you. If you are sent to a Catholic conversion therapist and make it through the other side and are still Catholic, I think that's fucked. Like, sorry. But if you want to go be part of a different Christian denomination that is queer affirming, I think I support that.
Yeah. I mean, I support it. I just don't necessarily understand it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. In the Patreon segment, I have a few questions that I'm going to ask you about this, and so we'll talk a little bit more about it. You mentioned that you had considered going to conversion therapy. What stopped you from doing it?
I think a couple of things. One that I'm not proud of. Like, I was straight married for a long time, and I thought that even if I was to find one and start going so that it would fix me, I would have to explain to her what I was doing. She was virulently anti-mental health. And like, I said that I wanted to go to a therapist, not to fix me, but just to like process my trauma and stress and bullshit. She said, absolutely not.
Huh.
Forbade me from going to a therapist. Now, I think I have my theories about why. Don't have to go into those, but her insecurities led her to believe that me going to therapy was a bad idea. But yeah, so there's just like not wanting to explain it to her. But then the other thing is, I think at that time, I came out in 2008. And I think that there were enough stories of conversion therapy being harmful, not working, being religiously based and bullshit. I was too far gone at that point. Like, I knew that I was gay, was out to myself from my teen years. And I just didn't think that it was going to do any better at fixing this than anything else that I'd already tried. But I did consider it. I looked into it.
Yeah.
There were folks that were practicing that in Washington State that were readily available before we banned it.
Wow.
So yeah. I don't know. And you said your folks wanted you to see a therapist when you came out, right?
Yeah, and I didn't really connect this until I was reading about it and reading about how pervasive talk therapy is as one of the methods of conversion therapy. Like, I think of some of the more extreme things, but like, in retrospect, my parents wanted me to go to conversion therapy. Mm-hmm. They thought that being gay was wrong enough that they didn't specify that when they said go to therapy, and they I think assumed that any therapist would try to talk me out of being gay because being gay was wrong. Mm-hmm. And they didn't realize this, but much to my chagrin, the therapist I got was gay himself. So he wasn't going to do any talking out of anything to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, in retrospect, they wanted me to go to conversion therapy.
Yeah.
Whether they knew that that's what they wanted or not.
Yeah. When you went and met with this gay therapist, before you found all of that out, Did you think you were going to get fixed?
No, I was dealing with depression at the time. This was in college when I really
And every day since.
and every 10 then since then, all the time, always. But I was really struggling with a new level of depression that I hadn't known or understood before. So I actually went to therapy and said, my parents want me to come because I'm gay, but I want to, now that I'm here, talk about my depression and work on that. So that was when I first, I had no pretense of saying, talk me out of this. It was by the time I was in my sophomore year of college, I had decided, before I came out, I had decided that I'm gay and this isn't changing. The reason I waited so long into college is because I was just waiting for it to change. I was waiting to suddenly become straight for these feelings to go away. And I finally just accepted it wasn't going away. So by the time I went to therapy for this, I was fully on board that I was gay and that part wasn't changing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I luckily had my own reasons to go to therapy and that started my mental health journey of talking to therapists about depression.
Yeah. Yeah. This is reminding me of a thing that I wanted to touch on. An awkward segue. Here we go. This idea that you cannot change your sexual orientation, you cannot change your gender identity. All of that's true, but that doesn't mean that your sexual orientation and gender identity cannot change.
Right.
It's just that you don't get to decide when and how it changes.
Right.
And that's an important distinction, I think, because it's entirely possible that somebody could find their orientation or identity is changing despite their best efforts, and that they might be experiencing a great deal of pain and trauma because of that. And going to that kind of therapy, like I think something is shifting and I don't like it. I need help with that. Could be valuable for somebody, but don't confuse that with conversion therapy. And just these things do shift over time. They can for some people, but that doesn't mean that you can change it.
You're not in control of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we do it?
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked about it a bunch.
I'm tempted to ask people for their conversion therapy stories, but I don't know if I can handle that.
That'd be a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, feel free to share. I always like when people share stuff, and man, there's a whole shit ass pot of collective trauma to like buckle up for if you're going to sign up for that.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
I'm going to make you straight, Kyle.
Can't wait.
Great. Break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We're going to do our gayest and straightest.
We're going to do our gayest and straightest, but first, hey, Kyle.
Hey, Mike.
Still gay.
Still gay?
Yep.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Your efforts were a failure.
Yep.
Because that's...
As are many of my efforts.
That's how conversion therapy doesn't work.
That's how it do.
Local gay bar review. I'm going to do a local gay bar review. Okay, great. I'm going to talk to you about Teeny, Tini, Teeny in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Teeny.
And here it is. It is teeny. It is a small little space.
Well named.
I wrote here, the twink bartender is not amused by my banter. There's lots of whiskey, has kind of an industrial vibe. The bar is 50s Formica countertop, and I kind of loved that. I went with Kelly, my coworker, friend, compatriot, Kelly, known bisexual. And she paid, so technically someone bought me a drink.
Oh, perfect.
But 2.5 dildos.
2.5.
Yeah.
It's right in around the middle, though. You know,
right in the
that's
middle.
not a horrible score.
I mean, I think
just about average.
That's I would go back there. I would drink more there.
Interesting. It's like if you give an Uber driver 2.5, that's like I had a real bad time.
This idea of like anything less than 5 stars as a utter failure that like lots of companies put their people through is bullshit. I reject that premise.
Yeah, a 3 should be average service. That's fine.
Yep.
That's perfectly adequate.
Yep.
I agree.
Rate, review, subscribe, and recommend, everybody.
Yeah.
We need your R's.
We need all your R's.
And then we need you to vote D.
Reject Republicans. That's 2 more R's.
The 6 R's.
The 6 R's.
Rate, review, prescribe, recommend, reject Republicans.
Yep.
Great.
Totally.
Our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We are on socials at Gayish Podcast, or you can go to gayishpodcast.com/contact to find out where you can access our Discord or our Facebook group.
Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, especially if it's your gayest and straightest, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rates apply.
Our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
And our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109.
Gayest and Straightest?
Let's do our gayest and straightest.
Okay.
I can go first.
Okay.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do
Great.
it.
So the straightest thing about me this week, surprisingly, was buying perfume for my boyfriend. I was in India, and at this work event, there was this perfumer who you would go up and you would smell jars and be like, I like that smell, I don't like that smell. And then he would like mix them together and make a perfume and give it to you.
Cool.
But I guess I could have lied and said it was for me. But when he was like, who is this for? My instant response was, oh, I'm looking for something for my brother.
Oh.
So I pretended to be straight. Instead of saying my boyfriend I do sodomy with, I said it was for my brother.
Oh.
The gayest thing about me this week, though, is while I was there was a festival going on, and they do this thing called dandiya, which is dancing, where you hold 2 sticks. Like, it almost reminds me of like drumsticks, but you like hit the sticks together while you dance in a circle or whatever. And one of my colleagues in the office was so good at dancing with the sticks, and damn, he had a sweet ass. Oh my God. He was really, really working it. And I was like, excuse me, sir, you are hot and this is a work event.
You're not allowed to be so hot at a work event.
You're not allowed to shake that ass like that at a work event. Happy dandiya or whatever. I don't know how to do it, but it was fun. I had a fun time. It felt very gay.
Nice.
Dancing around.
Yeah.
How about you, Kyle?
How about me? My straightest is going to a conference for work.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to like go and be businessy and dress up in your business clothes and shake people's hands and listen to speeches on the housing market.
Yeah.
You know, it just all feels very straight.
Yeah. You were in Whale's Vagina for that, yeah?
I was in what?
San Diego.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Is that from Anchorman?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I was in Carlsbad, technically, where the caves are. We didn't go to the caves.
Great.
The Gayest is playing hooky and skipping out on the last half of the last day to go to the San Diego Zoo instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see any bears?
Saw some bears. No. I didn't see. I saw pandas. Red panda.
Okay.
Little panda bear that was asleep up in the distance.
Oh.
I saw penguins. Everyone picked an animal they were excited to see. I picked penguins with the animal I was excited to see. We saw some penguins fucking.
Nice.
So that was fun.
Were they gay? Because there's gay penguins.
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not a penguinologist, but I hope they were gay. Saw some turtles fucking too.
Nice.
Yeah. That was uncomfortable.
So much banging at the zoo.
So much banging at the zoo. I got on Grindr too, but I didn't find anyone to fuck.
Oh.
Yeah. Next time. Yeah. We have a listener's Gayest and Straightest.
We have a listener's Gayest and Straightest. This week it's from this person.
Paul Donovan.
Oh yeah, Paul Donovan.
Yeah.
Paul, how are you?
How's it going?
Merry Christmas.
Hi Mike. Hi Kyle. It's Paul Donovan from the UK, calling in with a Gayest and Straightest. So the gayest thing I'm going to be doing this week is that I'm about to be heading out to Paris in order to attend Fashion Week. The straightest thing about me is that I will be wearing a corporate suit and tie and delivering a speech on economics. Congratulations on the forthcoming book. I'd remind you that I featured you in an entire footnote in my book, still widely available, Ideal Gift for Friends and Family. I'm sure you'll be very verse about it and reciprocate. Take care.
You could have, the gayest thing, you could have just stopped it. I'm going to Paris. Like adding the Fashion Week thing made it gayer, obvi, but
yeah. Well, thanks, Paul. And call us in with your Gayest and Straightest. Call in to us with your Gayest and Straightest because we need them.
Straight us with your gayest call in. Great.
How you feeling now, Mike?
Oh God, who am I? Why
Yeah.
am I here?
Where are you?
I should eat something, maybe?
Yeah, it's
some
about
point.
that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then let's wrap this bitch up.
Okay, let's do it.
I thank you to all conversion therapists. That's
Nope.
not a thing I want to say.
Nope.
Fuck
It's-
you.
Yeah,
To
fuck you.
All conversion therapists.
Thank you to all the people that have made it through conversion therapy and come out the other end. And thank you to our super gap bridgers. Thank you to Locomotives, that's not plural. Locomotive, Kaylee Adams, Kit Oliver, Kobe Gordon, Squoggle, Pip, Andrew Bugby, William Bryant, John Crowley, Yost Osel, Jonathan Montañez, Forrest Nail, Steve Douglas, Explosive Lasagna, Michael Covington, Just Jamie, Thomas B, Dusty Sands, A. Coleman, Chris Cacciatorians, and Jerome York. Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your money. That's it. This has been Gayish from the Chris Cacciatorian Studios. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you.
See you next week.
See you next week. Happy birthday, Derek.
Happy birthday, Derek.
Yay.